in our evolution, we either needed to be smarter than our prey or predator, or we needed to run faster than them in order to survive. But we've evolved since then, and many of us agents are still living in that primal state. So rather than living in the parasympathetic nervous system, which is our rest and digest, we're living our day-to-day routines, our day-to-day activities as if we're constantly running from or to something. And so without that understanding or that acknowledgement that we need to down-regulate our nervous system, we're living in that constant state of stress, right? So I'm going to talk about some of those triggers that can push us into the sympathetic state, meaning your fight or flight. Number one is fear of rejection. And this is the initiation for a lot of us agents into real estate, because it starts with that prospecting. We're either door knocking or cold calling, holding open houses. And so when that person on the other end of the line or the other side of the door says, no, I'm not interested, we start to get a little nervous. We start to speak faster. We become a little bit pushy, and we frantically start running scripts through our head. The second trigger is going to be financial pressure. That's when you're living commission check to commission check. You don't have any closings on the horizon, buyer's hesitant, and you start to give off that energy of urgency, unintentionally making the client feel pressured, right? And the third is going to be overload and overwhelm. This undoubtedly will reach agents at some point. This is when you have multiple escrows, you've got multiple clients, on top of dealing with your own personal obligations all at the same time. And this is when you start rushing from meeting to meeting, your mind becomes scattered, and you start skipping important details on contracts, right? Another trigger is conflict and negotiation. This is a really big one. This is when you've worked so hard, worked tirelessly to pull a transaction together, pull a deal together. And once you get into escrow, you start to feel that deal slipping away. And number five is the lack of boundaries. This is huge amongst many agents. This is when you just say yes to everything. And so you start answering texts at the dinner table. You start answering phone calls at your kids' sports. You start answering and responding to texts at midnight. You're sacrificing your sleep, and you're leaving yourself in an anxious state. The next trigger is comparison and imposter syndrome. This is when you see other agents winning, and then you start to think, well, I need to catch up. I need to work harder. I need to go to more seminars. I need to learn more. And so you start forcing productivity instead of aligning with your own rhythm. Another trigger is indecisive clients. These are the ones that are unpredictable. They're demanding, they're emotional. We've all been there. This is when the client is changing their criteria every day, changing their mind constantly. It makes you feel powerless, your adrenaline spikes, and then you start chasing rather than leading. And so can you see, when you're stuck in this fight or flight, you're flooded with adrenaline and cortisol, you're not responding with clarity. So if you're showing up for your clients in a constant state of stress, they're going to feel pressured instead of guided. They're not going to feel seen. They're going to feel unheard, and they're going to feel that energy of your stress. Then they're going to be stressed, and so they're going to look back on this whole experience as high stress. Hustle puts you in survival. Alignment puts you in service. Your nervous system is the foundation of your business. And when you start to regulate that, everything shifts.